Hey art historians! We are now moving on to Module 13, Contemporary Art Part 2, and this is Contemporary Art 1945 to 1980 Part 2, 13.01, Assemblage and Pop Art. So for this unit, we are going to take a look at about 7 core works, and then you've got 5 supplemental works to explore. Assemblage art is originating in the early 20th century, and it can be really traced back to the works of Pablo Picasso and other artists like Calder, Nevelson, and Duchamp. And so the location for assemblage is a little all over the place. And pop art began in like the mid-50s in Britain and then the later 1950s in the USA. So we've got a couple of pieces to talk about. For assemblage art, we are looking at Rauschenberg's Bed as well as Canyon. Then we have Jasper John's Flag. And then for pop art, we have Richard Hamilton's Just What Is It That Makes Today's Home So Different, So Appealing, Andy Warhol's Campbell Soup Cans, Lichtenstein's Wham, and Oldenburg's Lipstick Ascending on Caterpillar Tracks. And then for your supplemental works, we are going to take a look at Rauschenberg's Erased a Drawing by de Kooning, Warhol's Gold Marilyn Monroe, and Marisol's The Party, Oldenburg's Floor Cake, and Rosenquist's F11. So let's discuss both movements before we get into a little bit more about the artworks. So assemblage art, or as my dorky friends and I in college like to call it, assemblage. I can't help but hear assemblage every time I look written down, so if you want to be a little hoity-toity with me when talking about art history, we can call it assemblage. But it is defined as the artistic process where artists are creating three-dimensional compositions, and they are doing so by really combining these found objects or materials that are often like very unrelated, and they now are part of this one unified piece. And so the movement is really emerging in the early 20th century, but it gained a lot of prominence like closer to the mid-20th century. And it was very, very strongly influenced by Dadaism and Surrealism. So key artists include Marcel Duchamp, who was really the precursor with what he calls his ready-mades, like the fountain from 1917. So the concept with the ready-made is the combination of multiple different features of objects that end up rendering the original object no longer useful for its intended function. And so that really is setting the stage for assemblage. Louise Nevelson was known for her monochromatic wood assemblages like Sky Cathedral, and Robert Rauschenberg was absolutely famous for his combines, which is mixing paint, sculpture, as well as found objects. So these are all the pioneering artists for this movement. These artists are focusing on themes of the rejection of traditional art materials and emphasis on everyday objects as well as how they can be transformed, as well as the exploration of consumer culture, memory, and narrative. And so this assemblage style of art making is really paving the way for other movements like pop art and conceptual art. Speaking of which, pop art is characterized by its engagement with popular culture, as well as mass media and consumer goods. And so the format for this particular style for pop art is the use of bold colors, a lot of irony, and a lot of parody as well. So it is emerging in, like I said, the mid-1950s in Britain and then the United States a little bit later. And it really does reflect post-World War II consumerism as well as mass production, and that is what these artists are commenting on. Key artists include Andy Warhol, who's known for his iconic personality as well as his iconic artworks like Campbell's Soup Cans and the Maryland Diptych. He is very well known for being basically the most I guess, recognizable pop art artist, and is absolutely highlighting mass production and celebrity culture within his work in a really interesting and I don't know, very conversational kind of way. Like, it feels like a type of artwork that the everyday person can have a thought or opinion or a critique on. It definitely is a style that is a little bit more, I don't know, relatable in a way, I guess, which is kind of nice. Andy Warhol's one of my favorites. I'll get back into him in just a second. And then, of course, we have Roy Lichtenstein, who was very known for his famous comic book style, inspiring works like Wham, which you'll study, as well as Drowning Girl. Klaus Oldenburg is creating very large-scale sculptures of everyday objects, like Floorburger, but he's doing so that they kind of almost look like beanbag chairs. Like, they're made with this puffy plastic kind of material. there's a couple really interesting ones that I've been able to see, which is really fun. And then, of course, we have Richard Hamilton, who was a British pioneer, and he is known for a work that you will learn about, that really long titled one, just what is it today that makes homes so different, so appealing, from 1956. So pop art is really focusing on these themes of consumerism, advertising, and mass media, and they're really exploring the use of mechanical reproduction techniques, like silk screen printing. And so pop art is really known for its use of bright, bold colors, like I had mentioned, as well as commercial imagery, like logos and advertisements, as well as taking inspiration from comics, magazines, and film. And so pop art is really challenging a lot of the traditional notions of fine art, and it's really going to later influence movements like postmodernism as well. So both of these movements, assemblage or assemblage, and as well as pop art, they are definitely sharing a focus on redefining art by incorporating these non-traditional materials and subjects into the main piece. And in doing so, they are offering a critique of society while celebrating these ordinary aspects, which I think is a really special quality. So, of course, some of the things you're going to take a look at, Jasper Johns' flag, I've had the opportunity to see in person. It was at the Whitney. I'm not sure if it still is, but it was at one point in time when I was there. I have to say, Andy Warhol is one of my favorites. He is by far one of the most interesting characters. I will post a video, commercial that he did for, was it Burger King or McDonald's, where he's eating a Big Mac, so it must be McDonald's. And that's all he's doing is just eating a burger. And it's so Andy. There's also the Andy Warhol Diaries on Netflix. It's definitely delving into a little bit more of the mature content and themes, so be warned, but it is outstanding. Gives an excellent look into his life and his relationships, and you can understand a little bit more about the person he was and where he came from. And I think the lights in my classroom just turned off. So I'm going to conclude this video here. Take a look in the Carpino corner for this section, folks, and I will see you back here for Unit 2, hopefully with some more lights this time. Bye!